Hello, gorgeous, and welcome to the Women on Top podcast. I'm your host, Valerie Lynn, and with over 15 years of business experience, I became truly passionate about finding ways to support and hear from way more women. And what we know to be true is that women thrive when they are in their favorite position, on top in business, in relationships, in personal growth, and on top in being real and authentic to who the hell they are. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy the Women on Top podcast. Oh, welcome back to another episode of the Women on Top. And today I have such a beautiful soul sitting here with us. I have Sarah Arvizu, who is here today, and she is the host of the Creating Sunshine podcast. She is also the founder of the Sunshine Era. And what we'll also dive into a little bit more is that she is a stage 3 breast cancer survivor and thriver. And I am just so thrilled that she gave some of her time to be here today to share some of her story and really to uplift the women and the beautiful people listening to this episode. So thank you, Sarah, for being here today. I'm so honored.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. I want to just do something a little different and start with some fun icebreaker questions just because. And I just was thinking about, I don't know, the questions that I would like to know answers to from my friends. And so I would love to know, like, what is your secret or maybe not so secret food or drink addiction?
Ooh, good one. I have a sweet tooth.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie. I do like chocolate a lot.
Yeah.
I would say, like, overall, my favorite food has always been pizza for some reason.
Oh,
All
okay.
kinds of pizza. When I was pregnant, pizza like 4 times a week.
Really? Oh, okay. Just constant pizza. Okay. Then I have a follow-up question for you because I feel like this is like a make or break. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Absolutely.
Are you sure?
We make our own pizza now, me and my daughters, and we always put pineapple on it. Pineapple and bacon.
Okay, I need to understand, like, how does that even? I don't get it. Like, it doesn't make logical sense to my taste buds. Of like, there's a sweet on a thing that should be savory, and it feels like you're trying to put dessert with
Yes,
something.
it's sweet and salty. It's so good. It's like the best of both worlds. I think too, because when you have kids, like, it's kind of a go-to to get kids to like eat and like it. So I feel like the whole Hawaiian thing, and then we just like kept it going.
Gosh, I don't know. I feel like I've never understood it. It's like olives for me. Like, I don't like olives. And everyone keeps telling me that if I keep trying them, that I will eventually like them. And I feel like that is a crock because I am almost 40 and I still don't like them. So
I would give up the olive thing. I feel like, yeah, people are like, just keep trying. Like, how many times do you want me to try it? I've tried it like 75 times. I don't like it.
Yeah. So I don't believe in pineapple or olives on pizza. But anyways,
It's your own.
I know it's usually like it's one of those things that like divides people. So,
Right?
we're not going to be divided.
Yeah.
We're not going to be divided. It's also like that question of like, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Right. And so there's a very like, people are either very much one way or the other. So I guess what's your answer to that one? I don't know that I have a good answer.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I would consider it a Christmas movie. It's a great movie, but I don't know that it's it's not something that comes to my mind when I'm like, I want to watch a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's like, if I want to settle in next to the fire with my hot cocoa, I am not going to pick that. Like, that is just not, I'm not going to feel like merry and jolly and like so warm and fuzzy after that. I don't know. That's just not.
Right? I know. All the violins and everything. You're like, yay, Merry Christmas.
Okay, good. You can stay on the podcast because we agree with that. No, I'm kidding. Okay. And then my other question for you, which I feel like kind of leads and like segues into the other questions I want to dive into, but what was a moment that made you believe in something bigger than yourself?
Oh, crazy enough, because obviously we're going to get into it of what this whole last year and everything that's happened. But so I spoke in October on stage for the first time at She's Made for More. And I knew that it was going to be a big deal for me, like to get up there and to share my story. And my daughters were watching in the audience and all of that. But the like the aftermath, I guess you could say, and how everyone reacted and the messages that I got and the things that people were saying is when I was like, that was my like, I didn't ask you if I can cuss on here. Can I cuss on here?
Oh, yes.
When I was like, oh shit, like this is bigger than me, because the way that my story touched people in such different ways and the way that I was able to relate to the audience and really make an impact was part of like why I've made the decisions that I've made already this year, because I was like, I have to listen to this. Like, this is crazy.
Wow. Okay. So, what are some of those things that you were hearing then that made you just like, I don't know, kind of like pause and really reflect in that?
I mean, I think it was just so interesting what everyone took from my talk. Like, some people were so like, oh my gosh, this is so inspirational. I mean, people were messaging me like, you were the best speaker of the whole day. And I'm like, you mean like out of the people that won the speaking contest, right? And they're like, no, I'm talking out of the whole day. And I was just like, okay, let me sit with that. Let me receive that, because I was like, that's crazy. And other people, I mean, even one woman messaged me, and because, I talk a lot about your sunshine moments and creating sunshine in your life and all of those things. And when I talked about that, she was like, you made me think about my dad, because he used to always talk about sunshine, and he used to always, say that he was searching for the sunshine. And she's like, and you just reminded me of him. And then there was other people that said that they had been through cancer, but they didn't tell anybody, and they chose to not ask for support and not have and not have people in their corner. And that made them wish that they had, and next time if something hard happened in their life, that they were going to be more open about it. And that's why it was just such a broad spectrum of what people were telling me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that I was able to impact so many people on so many different levels. I was like, okay, something we need to work on this, because this could be something.
I wonder for you, actually, before we get into my question, I want to go into what you shared on that stage that was so powerful and kind of walk us through a little bit of like where it all began as far as your health journey.
Yeah. So, really, the main message behind what I shared was like, you're not that hard thing that you went through, right? You're not the victim of, because, okay, I'm 45. You said you're almost 40. Like, all of us in our lives have been through something difficult. I can guarantee there's probably not one person out there that hasn't been through something hard, whether it's, your parents got divorced, you were in a toxic relationship, you had a toxic job, a friendship, a health diagnosis, whatever it is. Like, everybody's been through something hard. And I think that what I realize is that there's something that happens when you're in that moment, or when you're starting to come out of that moment and come out of that hard thing, is either, am I going to become what that was? Like, am I just going to become somebody that had cancer? Or am I going to decide, okay, that happened, but what lessons did I learn? And now who am I going to be on the other side of it? And that was the biggest message that I shared, is that, there's a lot of things that happen in our life that we can't control. But then there's also a lot that we can. And I think we give our power away. We give our control away to these situations, to these people, to whatever it is. And that's when we kind of start to feel like a victim, right? And we start to feel stuck because this thing happened to me. And I'm like, yeah, it did. But guess what? Like, I came out on the other side of it, and I'm going to write the next chapter. I'm going to be the one that's going to decide what's going to happen for the rest of my life. And that is just going to be part of my story. Like, it's not the end of my story. I'm still here. And that was the main thing that happened, because when I got on stage, it was October, and I originally was diagnosed with cancer in January of 2025.
Okay.
So I was on stage as a survivor, which was amazing and crazy to even say, because like last year was just so wild from I mean, I'm still technically in it because I literally just had surgery again last week. But I mean, I'm cancer free. And they told me that in June after I had my double mastectomy. So it did touch a little bit on the whole entire journey, and like tried to give a brief overview of what had happened in the last, like, the 10 months prior.
Yeah. I love some of the messages of like where you are now, but I kind of want to go back to leading up to that diagnosis. Did you kind of know something was going on? Did you have like inklings like, oh gosh, maybe this is the journey that I'm about to go on? What was that you were experiencing?
Well, I found the lump. I found it myself, and it was probably, I want to say it was like July or August of 2024 that I found the lump. And it was probably like the size of a grape. And I was in the shower and I'm like, that's weird. Like, I don't never felt that before. So I was like, I should probably get this checked. But at the time, like, no one in my family ever had breast cancer. I felt great. I felt healthier than I'd ever felt. I was like, I'm eating right. I'm working out. I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing. And so I didn't think it was cancer, like not even 1% of me, like no way. And so it took a while because I didn't have a primary. My OB had retired and they wouldn't do a mammogram unless I had a referral. So, then, and we're in California and there's like a gazillion people here. So it took me like over 2 months just to get an appointment to get a referral to get to see a primary, which then gave me a referral for a mammogram. So I didn't even end up getting my mammogram until November.
Wow.
Now it's like the size of a golf ball. Like, it's growing, and it's
Oh
to the
my
point that
God.
it's like uncomfortable. But I'm still thinking it's probably just a cyst. Like, I don't think it's anything. So do the mammogram in November, and then in early December I went to see my primary again just to review my blood work and kind of see where we were at with everything. And I hadn't had a biopsy yet, but they did tell me that I needed a biopsy. And my primary was actually the one that told me before I had my biopsy that I had cancer. And it was because I think I was so delusional. I was like, oh my God, I can't, because the mammogram doctor let me back up, because the mammogram doctor had told me that we're going to assume this is cancer until we know that it's not. And when
Mm.
he said that, I was like, ew. That is not my vibe. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna assume it's not until we know that it is. And so I was just telling everybody, like, oh my gosh, his bedside manner was terrible. And I was just like furious about it, right? But when I went to go see my primary, he explained to me that sometimes from an ultrasound in a mammogram, he goes, we can tell that this is a cancerous mass. They look different. And he goes, and I'm telling you right now, without a positive biopsy, you have cancer. And I was like, whoa, hold on. And that was in the beginning of December, and then I didn't even get the actual diagnosis and stage and treatment and everything then until January 3rd of 2025. So I spent almost a whole month knowing I had it, but not knowing anything about it.
What was going through your mind at that point? Like, how were you processing that information? That's so much to think about.
It was, and I like, my daughters are 12 and 8, so I didn't tell them because it was right before Christmas. I had told my parents, my sister, my ex-husband knew, obviously, but it was really, without knowing, like, the treatment plan, I was still in my delulu, like, probably I'll just need to have surgery and then it'll be fine. And now it's probably the size of like an orange, you know? It was growing so rapidly. And I just didn't want to think anything negative because I knew like I had no control over what was happening. And everybody, and everyone that you tell says the same thing. It's going to be okay. It's probably nothing. And then when I finally found out that it was stage 3 and it was triple negative, which is the most aggressive type of breast cancer, and they were starting chemo, like, I think I had started chemo within 3 weeks of my diagnosis, like, they were moving. And so it was really a lot of like, oh my God, what is going to happen? And my two biggest things were like, what is going to happen with my daughters? And how am I going to be able to take care of them, being that I am a single mom? And what is going to happen to me financially? Because yes, I have insurance, but it doesn't cover everything. Like, how expensive is this going to be? How much is this going to cost me? I don't know
Yeah.
about you guys, but I don't have a savings account for cancer. Like,
Yeah. Right. That's yeah, that's a lot to go through in a kind of a short period of time too, especially going from like, oh, it's probably nothing to, hey, it's stage 3 and it's pretty aggressive. So, through this journey, then you get diagnosed and it's like, okay, this is what's happening. And then you choose a course of action of like, this is how we're going to treat it. Did you I'm just thinking about myself, that might be very selfish, but I'm just, you hear stories and you're like, gosh, I don't know how personally I would do with that. I think I would go pretty dark. Were there moments when you were questioning everything? Like, you seem really positive to me, like you're your message, your voice, like everything, even just like the fact that you were like, I don't want to believe in this negativity, tells me that you're naturally like wired for optimism. But did you have periods where you were in a dark place with all of this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yes, I've always been a positive person, even growing up. But I think, and I talked about part of this in my speech too, I think what ended up happening as I got older and things started happening in my life, and, I got separated, I got divorced, like all these things started happening. It was like I was still that positive on the outside, but I didn't really feel like I was like that on the inside. I didn't really I was just like, this is what everybody likes to see, and this is what everyone likes to be around. So I'm just going to do that. And then, but when I'm by myself, I didn't really feel that way. And that's why in probably like 2020 is when I started finding podcasts and I started listening to podcasts and started really thinking like, I need to change something because I don't like this. I don't like the way that I feel when I'm by myself. I don't like this person that I'm showing up as. And I was like, I have to do something because I can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. I'm losing my cool with my kids. Like, I don't want to be that kind of parent. So I really started then. And then really I had amped it up like when I started attending events in 2022 and then meeting other women that were, in spaces that I had never even heard of. I had never heard of breath work and I had never heard of Reiki. I'd never had heard of any of that. And I was like, okay, I'll try it, like it doesn't hurt. And that's why I think when I got my diagnosis, I already had so many tools and so many things that I was already doing that made it not as difficult as what it could have been. Also, I did know after a few treatments, like, okay, but I know I'm going to feel okay in 2 days. I know in 2 days I'm going to feel better. And I was just like, let me just get there. Let me just get there. It's going to be okay. And then you have your surgeries. And then when you have to look at yourself and you're just like, so it was definitely a roller coaster of emotions. But I am so thankful for the things that I had already learned how to do because they helped me immensely.
Yeah. I'm I'm glad that you shared that. And it's always so interesting to connect our stories, like looking back and be like, oh my gosh, there was a greater reason why I found the podcast and found all of this, because how supportive was that during the time that I needed it the most. I I want to come back to something that it seems like is kind of your message, which you talked about. And I love that you said, like, this doesn't get to be part of my identity. I I was part of a layoff, in the summer. And I found it really hard to separate my identity from my work. And then as I went into these like dark moments, I was like, who am I minus everything? Like, who am I minus this podcast? Who am I minus all of these like quote unquote accomplishments that people see me for, whatever. And it was, it was one of the biggest teachers. And I feel like I learned so much and I redefined so much. But I'm curious for you, how did you walk through that and not have this be part of your identity, both like physically and spiritually and emotionally, like all of that? What's that process been like?
Well, I think part of it too is I had to come to terms with the fact that it was going to be part of me like forever now, that I'm never going to be somebody that didn't have cancer. And even when you're done and even when it's over and, everybody's like, oh, you're cancer free. It's like, but I'm not the same person that I was before, and you never like the way that I think about my food, the way that I think about my sleep and my exercise. It's like now I'm not just exercising because I want to be in shape. I'm literally exercising because I don't want this shit to ever come back.
Mm,
It's like I feel like everything just has such a bigger meaning. But and it does become, and I mean, you can probably relate for the summertime, like there's going to be a time that it does become your whole entire identity because you can't think about anything else,
yeah.
and I just had to let it be that for that time. And then, like I was just telling a friend the other day, because the surgery that I had in June, my double mastectomy and my deep flap, she just had like when I had my last surgery a week ago. And I left her a voice memo and I told her, I said, it's going to look crazy the first time you take all those bandages off and you look in the mirror. Like you were literally going to look like you lost a fight with a serial killer. But what I will tell you is that 6 months from now, the scars will fade, and they won't be the first thing that you see every single time that you look in the mirror. And I think that that just applies to a lot of different things, because when you're in it, you're like, oh my God, I'm never going to look in the mirror the same. I'm never going to feel the same. But then as time starts to go on, it's like external, internal, the scars, they all kind of fade, right? Because you just start to deal with it. And then maybe now you find who you are on the other side of that job, and who do you want to be? Like, if that's not your identity anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it was like this beautiful thing that came from that, of course, like, because it forces you to get good with some things. It forces you to confront yourself in the mirror a different way. It forces you to kind of make space for grief. When you're a positive person and you're always that person, like, I agree. Like, at first I was like, oh, this is going to be great and easy and I'm going to find something wonderful. Immediately, like, not taking into account that the market sucks and that the universe or God had a different plan for me. um, and so I think it's just interesting to see what helps people and how you move through that, because sometimes I think it's easy to hear the message on the other side and think like, oh, it was easy for her because she just kind of wired that way,
Yeah.
versus what you actually like went through in some of that was truly.
And I shared all of it. Like, I was on my stories with no hair, with no eyebrows, no eyelashes. Sometimes I was crying. I was just like, I realized in the beginning, I go, look, I can approach this like one of two ways. I can do like everything else I've ever done in my life before and just put on a smile and act like there's nothing wrong. Clearly, that hasn't served me very well because I physically got sick. And I said, or, I already have this platform. I already have my podcast. Like, I could just let people in and just share it with them as I'm going through it. And not only did it help, and other people would reach out and say, oh my gosh, either they went through it or they had someone else that was going through it that they wanted me to talk to, but also like how healing it was for me to not keep it all inside,
Mm.
and I think that was part that I wasn't really expecting. But I think that was the biggest blessing out of all of it, is like, I could just show up and I could just talk to these people. And then on the days where I'm feeling like crap, at least I could open my phone and there's all of these like messages of support or of anybody that I want to talk to, because I'd made so many like new connections too of people that had already been through what I was going through.
Yeah. Gosh, I didn't think about that part of like, you're actually kind of, by opening up, building your own support system
Mhm.
in a way that you don't even expect. What, you mentioned the identity piece, but what are some of the other big things that you feel like you got taught in a good way? Like, what are some of those lessons that you're walking away with that you're like, gosh, I was a different person 3 to 5 years ago, and this experience has given me whatever it is. What are some of those things?
There was a lot.
Yeah.
But I would say asking for help and asking for support was really huge, because I had this like hyper independent, like single mom mentality, that like, number one, I didn't feel like I could count on a lot of people because a lot of people in my life had let me down. So I was like, well, I don't want to ask for help because either they're going to say no or they're going to say yes. And then they're just going to take it back, and then I really had to get real with myself. Like, no, I can't do this by myself. Like, I need help. So when I don't feel good, and I have my parents are close, it's like, I need to call my dad or I need to call my friend. And like, people would just ask me like, what did I need? People started sending me like DoorDash gift cards, and I'd come home and there was like flowers on my porch and like books for me and all sorts of stuff, because I just said yes. I had a friend come from Denver and come stay with me for like a week and a half to just help me. My sister came with her 3 kids from Nebraska and like they stayed with me, and it was just because I just opened myself up to receiving and allowing people to help me, even when it felt weird and awkward. And like, I was like, Sarah, now is not the time to be stubborn. Now is not the time to sit here and prove that you have it all together. Like, this shit is hard and it's okay to have people help you. And also, the other thing was, when something like this happens, like, your priorities totally shift. And I really was like, number one, life is freaking short and none of us know how much time we have left. And the time I stepped away from work as soon as I was diagnosed, because I knew, I was like, okay, look, treatment is going to be crazy. And then I'm leading straight from treatment into multiple surgeries. And at work, I was a senior manager. And I'm like, I can't go there and like show up and be everything for everybody else when I'm going through this myself. Like, I'm going to burn myself out. And plus, I knew that my daughters were scared and they needed to see me like on the days that I was okay and not just have me go to work on the days I was okay. And then the days I was sick, be home. I'm like, I'm not doing that. So that this year of being with them and being home really like also showed me how much I was missing by being at work all the time and how much I was working, and I was just working towards this goal of getting promoted and thinking about retirement and all these things, and it's like, why am I thinking about all this shit that's 20 years in the future? Like, why am I not thinking about the right now when my kids are young? So I chose to resign from my corporate job, and I put my notice in 2 weeks ago.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
I'm not going back.
such a big decision. That
That
is
was
such a big decision. Was that part of your recalibration of your priorities and your values with life? Is that job just had kind of ended its season for you and you're in a different place?
Yeah, I think so because I was there for 27 years. I've been there since I graduated high school. And I already had been feeling this pull like the past few years, since I started my podcast and I started attending events. But I also had this story in my head that was like, it couldn't be for me. Like, it's not going to work because I'm a single mom. It's not going to work because I live in California. It's too expensive. It's not going to work because like that's cute for them, but not me. Who's going to pay me for, what I know and what I do? And like, I just had all of these like ideas in my head that were not serving me. And really this year I was like, why not? Like, why not me? You know what I mean? There's nothing. And the more women I met and the more women I got around, it was like, they were just showing me what was possible.
Mm.
They were just a guidebook. It wasn't anymore like they had something different than I had. And I think that after I got on stage and shared my story was when I was like, you know what? I think I really need to go all in and really try to make this happen because I know if I go back, I'm just going to be wondering what if. What if I would have tried? What if I would have went for it? And I was like, I don't want the what if feeling anymore. Like, I am not going to get to the end of my days and be wondering what if about anything. And I just really, really had to make a plan and get real. And so when I went in, I turned in my notice, it was actually perfect because it was the 1 year anniversary of when I started chemo. And I was like, I'm
Wow.
taking back this day. I'm reclaiming this day. So that was the day that I chose to go turn my letter in. And I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm walking away.
Wow. What a moment. What a time to turn that page. And I'm sure it's bittersweet because it was such a big part of your life. Um, what are some of the other things that you found that you're like, gosh, this is kind of how I'm defining the meaning of life now versus maybe how you were, responding to life before? I feel like, at least for me, I've had to walk through those things of like, what do I think like, what is a good, for lack of a better word, like, what is a good life, but what is a good death? Like, what does that look like? Like, looking back, what am I going to be so grateful that I did? And how can I live in accordance to that? So I'm wondering how you've kind of calibrated to that differently.
I think a lot of it is what's important, like you said, like what really matters at the end of the day, and I don't need all the money in the world. I don't need to drive a brand new car and live in a brand new house. Like, I really don't care about that stuff. And I think there was a lot of things, especially with my daughters and when I was working so much, that I would always say like, okay, maybe later, or, I'm tired, or I don't want to, and a lot of those things have changed, So if there's like, it looks like it's going to be a beautiful sunset, well, we're going to the beach. You know what I mean? And a lot more spontaneous things that they're like, hey, mom, can we go out to dinner tonight? And instead of always being a no, I'm like, yeah, let's go. And they're just like, what? And and they love it now because, and just the time at home, even, with them is like, let's play a game. Let's do a puzzle. Let's do a craft. There was so many things that I was just saying later to, and I'll do that later or maybe next time or no, when I really, really wanted to, but I was just like, I didn't have my priorities straight, or I was tired because I was working all the time, or what I was doing is I was trying to cram all of these things that I loved into my 2 days off. So I would like work, and then on those days off, I'd be doing that. And here's my daughters, and I'm just pushing them away and pushing them away because I'm like, I need to get my stuff done because I'm trying to build something. And it was just, I really had to sit back and say, like, what is important to me? And what's important to me is time.
Mm. I wonder if this experience like really helps kind of, I just feel like everything kind of happens in that way where it's like, oh, I needed to go through this so that I could realize that time is the thing that I wasn't making a priority and I need to make it a priority. Like, does that kind of feel like it resonates with you? And do you think that there's certain things that you're like, oh, I had to actually go through this in order to have this new perspective?
I do, because I think it wasn't sustainable the way that I was living and what I was doing. And while little moves would happen, and little things would happen, I don't think I ever would have been able to get to where I truly, truly wanted to go and where I meant to go if I was just recording podcast episodes on my lunch break. You know what I mean? Like, I really feel like things happen and the universe starts to kind of give you these nudges of what you should be doing. And I always tell people, like, I don't think I was listening. And I think the universe, God, or whoever you believe in, was like, all right, I'm going to slap you in the freaking face with
Yeah.
something big time. So you're going to listen. And it's like, and then you get stage 3 cancer and you're like, okay, I'm listening. I'm
Yeah.
paying attention.
I do think I believe in that too, that sometimes we just put it off for so long. You put it off, and eventually it's like, you're going to get a slap in the face. That's this rude awakening. But I also sometimes think, gosh, that's the only way. I would not have learned otherwise because
Exactly.
I couldn't have created that from my own mind that was living into the way that I was every day. Like there's no way I could have learned that just by sitting here thinking about it.
Right. And I think stepping away from work like gave me the time and the space to really get real and say, what do I want? What do I want my life to look like? What do I want my kids' life to look like? What do I want my future to look like? And it wasn't working 45, 50 hours a week.
Yeah.
It wasn't being away from my kids for 11 hours every single day. Like, I just saw my daughter's former kindergarten teacher this morning when I was dropping her off, actually. And she was like, how are you doing? Like, because they all knew. And she's like, is everything gone? Are you good? And I was like, the cancer's gone. And I told her, I said, I actually quit my job. And she's like, oh my God, that's amazing. Because I used to volunteer with her and I was just trying to fit in any pocket that I could. And I told her, I said, I didn't have kids not to see them. And that's what I felt like.
Yeah.
I had my kids, but I was only seeing them 2 days a week, on the days that I was off work. And I'm like, this is not the kind of life that I want. Like, I don't want them to just remember, oh, mom was working all the time. Mom was working all the time. Like, I do want them to see me work and I want them to see me go after my dreams, but I want them to see me like happy and fulfilled and loving it because that's what I want for them.
What else do you want for them from this experience? And what do you hope that you just are planting in their hearts right now?
Our relationship has gotten like so much stronger because of this. And I think that there's a lot of kids that, especially my oldest is 12, right? And it's not to say we don't disagree and we don't butt heads because we do, but I just think that we have a better appreciation for family and for what it means. And I think there's a lot of kids that their parents, when things do happen, like maybe, because we want to protect our kids, we want to keep them safe, we want to shield them from the hard stuff. And I chose not to do that with them, even though sometimes people are like, you show them too much. You shouldn't have let them see you, after your surgery with your scar. I'm like, if they wanted to see me, I was going to let them see me. I wasn't going to like hide it. And I needed help. They were like my little nurses. But I definitely think that for them, I will also want them to be able to have the tools that they need for when hard things happen. But we'll do journaling together. Like, I didn't develop the tools that I needed until I was already 40. Like, I just hope for them to give them the tools so that way they don't have to like learn it so much later in life. I want them to be the teenagers with the most regulated nervous system in the world.
I like the aspiration there. What a beautiful gift you can give them, right? I think that's such a tool. We talk about it as adults, but we're just really terrible at actually doing it and making it a priority. So that's really beautiful. And to get to have them witness you in your vulnerability, in just the moments where you don't feel strong, I think actually gives them strength in a different way. Like,
Yeah. I think it gives kids then permission to know that, like, your parents aren't perfect and you don't have to have it together all the time, because it's like, I don't remember like my parents like apologizing or crying or like anything like that, and I'll tell them all the time. I'm like, I'm figuring it out as I go. Like, we're all learning together. I didn't get a book. I was like, no one's perfect. But yeah, I mean, if I mess up, I tell them that I mess up. And, it's just the humanness is
yeah,
what I think that the kids need to see, not sitting here crying in the bathroom after your kids go to bed. Like, your kids need to know that you're human too.
yeah. I agree with you. That humanness is such a lesson and such a valuable thing that we can give to them as well. For women, I know you're passionate about helping women and helping them, kind of discover themselves and to not identify with these hard things that happen. What are you hoping that you can just like infuse into women's spirits, into them as they come into contact with you or as they listen to you? What do you want them to just like absorb and take away, especially knowing what you know now?
Wish that I had learned a long time ago to prioritize myself, and as women, as moms, as, working women, whatever it is, I feel like we put a lot of like ourselves to the wayside. And I really just want women to remember to prioritize themselves, because the more that you prioritize yourself and your own like personal development, your own self-care, your own nervous system, your own well-being, the better you're going to be able to show up for everybody else, and it's not because if you leave yourself last, you're going to pour into everybody. You always hear the saying, like, you can't pour from an empty cup. You literally cannot pour from an empty cup. And even if it's 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, like those small changes every single day is going to make such a huge difference. And I feel like once women start to learn that and start to, really just completely embody that, and it becomes your non-negotiable. Like, this is my me time. I'm going to go meditate. I'm going to journal. I'm going to listen to a podcast. Like, whatever you can do every single day to start to make those changes, like, it will literally change your life.
Mm, I love that. Like the compounding interest almost. Like you're
Mhm.
just depositing this like investment in yourself that's going to just grow over time.
And
I,
that's when I started. When I started, I found podcasts and I knew that I was gonna go into, like, craziness at work, so I listened to a podcast every single day on the way to work, and I started hearing it and I started believing it and I had all this positivity coming in my ears. And, it's like anything that you consume, right? If especially like look at social media. If you're consuming negative things, you're gonna have negative thoughts. So it's like I told my friend the other day, like, could you please stop sending me those videos? Because I said my feed is amazing and I would like to keep it that way.
yeah.
And that's what it takes, is just what do you want to embody and who do you want to be and how can you get yourself around more of that?
Yeah. How can we get ourselves more around you and what you're creating? Tell us where people can find you and tell us a little bit about creating sunshine.
Course. Well, I have my podcast. Obviously, it's called Creating Sunshine. I drop new episodes every single Wednesday. I do solos, I do guest episodes, and I really try to bring people in and teach the audience, and give you like tactical tools and strategies and things that you can do to really start to make that shift in your life. I love a good transformation story, obviously. I also have a membership. It's called the Sunshine Era, and we meet twice a month. Same thing. I have calls from with myself, coaching calls, and then I also bring in guest experts. And then I am also going to be speaking in Nebraska in March at an event called Women Who Rise. And I have a couple more that I have applied for, so I'm just waiting to hear back.
Oh my
And
gosh.
obviously, you guys can find me on Instagram at Sarah or Sarah_Arvizu. You can send me a DM, you can send me a voice memo. anything.
Perfect. We'll link everything in the show notes too for people so they can access it. I'm so thrilled for you that this just seems to be your version of sunshine, all these things that you're chasing and that you're giving, I should say, like you're being so in service of what feels true for you and just like what's calling to your heart. So it's really beautiful to witness that and to witness you have faith in that more than anything. I have a closing tradition on this podcast where I ask the guest that I'm interviewing to leave a quote or a reflection for the next guest, not knowing who it is. So, what I want to do is share what was left for you and then give you the opportunity to do the same thing.
Okay.
And I think today's quote is so in alignment with everything that we've been talking about. So, my last guest shared for you: we don't remember days. We remember moments. Life can be hectic and busy, and there's lots going on, but slow down and really think about those moments that you're making that are going to stick with you. And that's so perfect for everything that you
So
talked about.
yes, it is. That is very in alignment.
I'd love to see what is coming up for you. You know, it can be messy, it can be long, it can be short, it can be whatever you want it to be, but what's kind of on your heart that you would like to leave for the next guest?
Wow. Well, I think it goes along with the same message that, you're not that hard thing that happened to you. And while there's a lot of things in your life that have happened that you can't control, we need to focus on the things that we can and remember that we're the authors of our own story. So you might not be able to control that chapter, but you can control all the ones that come next.
I love that. I love that. I think that's such a good note to kind of wrap this up with, too. Just like you get to be the author of your own story. And even if there's going to be those chapters, like you said, you can't control, but you still get to write whatever's next. You still get to paint whatever is next on that canvas for yourself. And sometimes I think we forget that we have the pen in our hand, that we have the paintbrush in our hand, and we think it's somewhere else. So I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for the messages that you are sharing, for being so vulnerable and just such a light for others and for people to really have hope and to realize that they get to see themselves in you in so many different ways. And also, like I said earlier, like just witnessing you trust your path that's in front of you without knowing what it's all going to look like, I think is really, really powerful right now. So thank you for being a guest on this podcast. It's been really amazing to chat with you today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you for tuning into the show today. And before you go, I just have one quick favor to ask of you. There is a really simple way that you can help support me and help support this show, and that is to hit that follow button on whatever app you're listening to the show on. I'm trying really hard to level up the content and deliver unique value and amazing guests, and just hitting that follow button is the magic that will help continue to empower that. And remember that the world deserves to hear your voice and your stories, and you deserve a place at the top.